Welcome in, Loons fans, to Loon Talk, episode 5. I think I'm losing track at this point. I am Jonathan Harrison. I am one of your hosts today, joined by Dan Terrar, my usual co-host, and we have a special guest this week. We have our first guest to this season of Loon Talk. Welcome in, Callum Williams. How you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Let's just go with guest, shall we? I'm not sure special would be the right way to describe me.
No, you're special.
So,
Don't sell yourself short. You're special.
We got to go special if they're on this show. All our guests will always be special guests.
There we go.
Let's just jump right into it. Two big wins for the Loons. Dan, we no longer have to talk about losses anymore. We get to talk about wins, and there are two big 1-0 wins that come late in the second half, each of the goals. Just generally talking here, you guys' thoughts on the wins. Dan, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on 2 straight wins for the Loons this week.
Well, I think Cal probably agree with me. We could have done without quite so much drama. I mean, it's fun and it's exciting, but let's face it, we knew they were going to win those 2 matches. They didn't have to make it so exciting. And but you know what? You can break down the games, and we can talk about what went wrong, what went right. At the end of the day, especially if you go back to Vancouver first, Cal, all that really mattered was they got the win. It didn't matter how. I don't think they cared who scored. They just needed the 3 points in the win, and they got it in very dramatic fashion.
Absolutely, and it's why we love this game, isn't it? They could have very easily gone and easily got a 3-0 victory or something along those lines, and we would have all been a lot more settled. But it's just not the Minnesotan way, is it? I'm learning this very quickly, chaps. It's just not what happened here. So, look, I mean, isn't it amazing what a couple of wins does for your season? Because now nobody's talking about being bottom of the Western Conference. Very few are talking about Adrian Heath needing to leave the football club. It's amazing what happened in just a short few days. So I'm not going to suggest that the season has been turned around, because I think it's far too early to start talking about the season being a wash already, because we're, quite frankly, we're 6 games in and there's a lot of football to be played. But from a psychological point, chaps, it was obviously exactly what Minnesota United needed. And I said this earlier on to somebody a few days ago, that I think what would have been perfect would have been late drama and late victory.
It's your fault.
And no doubt about it, as I said earlier on, you go and win 3-0, you go and win 4 or 5-0, whatever, sure, great, no problem, everyone's happy. But the sense of relief after those 2 victories, I think, also boosted the confidence as well. And that only happens when you have those late wins and those dramatic wins as well. So I think it's been perfect for Minnesota United. I really do.
Absolutely,
and especially on Wednesday night, especially, you could feel it when Abdullah scored. It wasn't just the small number of fans that were there. It was just everybody. You could see it on the bench. You could see it on the players on the field, on the subs on the sideline, up in the press box. I mean, that was just this huge breath of fresh air. It was just crazy.
Yeah, the atmosphere at Allianz Field was absolutely electrifying, especially in those second halves, especially Saturday night, as the game is just wearing on, as Minnesota's putting on the pressure on Dallas. The atmosphere just ramped up to another level that it didn't feel like 4,000 fans. It felt like it was a full house again.
It did. It really, really did. And, that only really whetted the appetite, didn't it, really, for having a full house in about a month's time or so. And I can't wait. I really can't wait. And the roar that you heard from the entirety of the stadium, it sounded like there was 40,000 people in when Robin Lod scored the late winner against, my word, who did we just play? It's been a whirlwind. Vancouver and Dallas, beg your pardon.
Mm-hmm.
It's been one of those weeks. Look, I mean, it was just such a huge sigh of relief on both counts, really. It felt as though there was a massive monkey off the back of Minnesota United. And now, hopefully, chaps, they can kick on and really start the season.
Yeah, hopefully they can just continue this. It's kind of a tough time to gain that momentum back. You have a bye week this week, and then you play one match, and then you're off for 3 weeks. I mean, it's a tough time it's always good to win, but you hope that their momentum will carry through what's going to be their lightest portion of the schedule. But, guys will get healthy, and we might see Dabasi again. We haven't seen him yet this year, and it'll be good to start seeing some of those bodies come back. But, man, when you're winning, you kind of want to just keep playing, don't you?
Yeah, of course you do. Yeah, absolutely. And Adrian Heath sort of suggested the other side of the argument the other day, which I understand as well, but because there's nothing you can do about it, right? You've got to get on with the schedule. But yeah, look, I think it would have been good if Minnesota would have had another game, preferably another home game as well. That would have been a perfect world. But they have to deal with what's been thrown in front of them, Dan. And now it is literally a case of regrouping, reassessing, and having a look. Because they've got time now to have a look at what perhaps has not gone so well this year. But also the good thing is now as well is, and Adrian, I don't think I'm breaking any news here, Adrian Heath insinuated it, and it seems as though it's out there. The two signings, one of them is confirmed, the other done to my knowledge, but yet to be fully confirmed by the club. They'll hopefully be in market next week. And that was Adrian saying next week. So this week, really, they should be in market at some stage. And hopefully that gives them a chance to integrate, gives them a chance to meet their teammates, have a few training sessions without any overriding pressure, just settle in when they can. So we'll wait and see. And I would fully expect two new players to be available for the game away to Real Salt Lake. But also you mentioned it as well, Dan, Lafc Dibasi now seems to be on the mend, and no doubt Minnesota United have missed him. So after two much-needed victories, Minnesota United will be back to full strength against Real Salt Lake, and I think they're going to look very, very different to the team that we've seen over the course of the last few weeks.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump into these games a little bit more, and I kind of want to work from the back of the starting lineup all the way to the front. So let's start with Tyler Miller. He gets the first start. He gets his first start of the season, his first two starts of the season, and has two clean sheets because he played well. He made a number of key stops. His distribution was good, but he also got a really good showing from his backline. We'll get to them in a second, but I just want to get to the big question. Is Tyler Miller the number one goalkeeper going forward? From my standpoint going into the season, I thought Dane would be the number one keeper just based off the way he played at the end of last year. But then when Adrian made the switch, he said it was just based off of just needing to make a change, and I completely believe that. They need to make a change after going 0-4. And then Tyler Miller comes in and plays it remarkably well. I personally think that it might be that there's a goalkeeping change in the coming here, and Tyler Miller kind of earned that right to have that number one spot. You guys' thoughts?
Go ahead, Cal. This is one of those questions that you have the luxury that most teams don't have of having two starting goaltenders. And when I say starting goaltenders, I mean they could start just about anywhere in the league. That's a great problem to have, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. It's a wonderful problem to have, and it's for once, it's a positive head-scratcher for Adrian Heath. And, look, it is, you mentioned the word luxury. That is the absolutely right word for it. And to answer the question, Jonathan, I think Callum Miller is the number one going forward. And look, I don't think it's not necessarily, Dane St. Clair wasn't necessarily dropped because he had a bad run of games or anything along those lines.
Right.
He didn't necessarily have his best evening in Colorado. But I don't think, from a defensive point of view, many did.
No.
If you go back and you look back at the 20 starts that Dane St. Clair has had for the club, I struggle to think of a moment where you think to yourself, goalkeeper should have done better there. There aren't many moments when I think to myself that was the case, apart from the second Colorado goal where I thought it was. I don't know what you said, Dan, but I thought it was a routine save, that he should have made a routine catch. Maybe I'm being a little harsh there, but I think he should have done better for the second Rapids goal. And allegedly, after speaking to the goalkeeper coach Stuart Kerr over the days after that, he lost his confidence a little bit. And because they believe in him so much, because they see him as the long-term goalkeeper at this football club, you've got to remember he's only turned 24 a couple of days ago, and as we all know, for a goalkeeper, you can play until you're 38, 39, 40 sometimes if you look after yourself. Yeah. So they see him as the goalkeeper for the future for sure. And I don't think they wanted to put any unnecessary pressure on him at the moment. Now, the good thing for them is they had as Dan said, the luxury to be able to go and bring in an MLS-ready goalkeeper. I know for a fact he's an MLS-ready goalkeeper. I think we all do. We've seen him over the course of the last couple of years with LAFC and his cameo appearances for Seattle Sounders and obviously throughout his short time at Minnesota. And look, I can tell you now, I know for an absolute fact there were inquiries about his availability from other MLS teams because he's the number one goalkeeper in this league. And there were teams around Major League Soccer that were asking the question and were saying, well, if you're not going to play him, we will. And I think Minnesota United, I think they understood they understand what they have. And in that situation where offers were coming in, they understood the situation. And they wanted to keep their goalkeeping area as strong and as competitive as possible. They know Tyler Miller was frustrated that he didn't start the season as the number one goalkeeper. I remember a story I heard from pre-season when it was the last pre-season game against Orlando City, and Adrian Heath had told the squad that the lineup he was going with was ultimately what he was going to be thinking moving forward for that opening game in Seattle. And of course, Dane St. Clair started that game, and it was not met with too many positives from Tyler Miller. So, the good thing is to have competition, right? That's one of the ultimate goals to have in any roster. But going even deeper into it and perhaps going back a further layer, the other thing you also want is for people to be competitive themselves individually, but also to be a little bit angry when they're not playing. And Adrian Heath made the point a couple of days ago, saying he feels as though prior to the two victories, his team weren't nasty enough. And I would agree with that. I think they showed the Sounders a bit too much respect in the second half in particular. And that's not an Adrian Heath team at all. That's not what he wants from his team. So ultimately, look, I think to answer the question, Johnny, I know I've waffled on a little bit here. I think Tyler Miller is the number one going forward. But that doesn't mean we won't see Dane St. Clair again this season.
Yeah. And I don't think it means that Dane St. Clair was bad, as you mentioned, bad to begin the season. I mean, you just needed to make a change, and Tyler Miller came in and played outstanding, making a bunch of key saves, especially in that Vancouver match where he was put on the spot a couple times, point-blank range, and he was able to make big stops. So then moving forward in the lineup here, the defense, they played a heck of a game against Dallas. They made a change to that back line against Dallas. Yuka Raitala just needed a break after playing the Colorado and the Vancouver matches. In steps Brent Coleman. I think Chase Gasper, moving from left to right across that line. Chase Gasper had his best game of the season. Brent Coleman had his best game of his two games that he's played. Michael Boxall and Romain Métanire both had their best games. Romain Métanire probably should have been higher up in the Player of the Week standings across the league because he played an outstanding game. But that back line stepped up big time in both of these games.
Yeah, they really did, and I think that everybody was concerned going in that, the left side was going to be vulnerable because Chase hasn't been performing as well as he could, and they were worried about Brent Coleman coming back in, and I think Cal clearly those two rose to the occasion, and that's kind of what Adrian was probably hoping, that these two would they've been under the microscope and they've been criticized quite a bit, and they both stepped up and kind of shut people up, and I think that's huge for this team because that's what they did last year. They had that back four was just unbelievable. Almost all of coming out of Florida, they were just crazy good.
Very good, Dan. Yeah, and as we've said before, chaps, on various different airwaves and what have you, there is an expectation now with this team. You have to be of a certain quality to play, and I think Brent Coleman came in with, I would argue, with a little bit of a point to prove because. Against the Sounders, and let's be honest, it wasn't his best evening, was it at all? And no. I think a couple of people questioned whether or not he could do it at this level anymore, which I think is a bit of a harsh judgment after just one game. But particularly when you get to the age of 30 in this game and in this league sometimes as well, particularly if you've only played in this league as well. Sometimes when you get into your 30s, that question can be warranted. But I thought Brent Coleman was outstanding against Dallas, and I'll sort of disagree slightly, Johnny. I thought I thought Michael Boxall had his best game against Vancouver, actually. I thought he was flawless against the Whitecaps. He was very, very good against Dallas as well. I'm not saying he wasn't, but I think also, by the way, Jukka Raitala, now the 8th different centre-back that Michael Boxall has played alongside for Minnesota United since coming in mid-2017. So we all know where the solidity stems from, for sure. Yeah. So, look, I have full confidence in the back line, for sure. And as we sort of insinuated a little earlier on, once Maki Dibasi comes back in as well, it's only going to get stronger. And the good thing is for Adrian Heath is he knows that he has Jukka Raitala, who can play at left back as well. In fact, it's probably his more preferred position, left back, as opposed to centre back. But again, that's an option they know they have. They can also bring in Brent Coleman again, who, as you said, I thought was very good. I thought the two fullbacks were very good. I agree with both of you in the sense that Chase Gasper had his best game, and he needed it big time, didn't he? Because he was very indecisive. He'd lost his confidence big time. And I think a couple of challenges here and there brought the confidence back, or at least an element of it. I still don't think he's 100% from what we've seen in the past. That 2019 campaign was wonderful for him, wasn't it? So I think if we get that Chase Gasper back, which it looks like, judging on the performance against Dallas, if we judge him on that, then hopefully he can continue to progress and be the left back we all know he can be.
I think his defense obviously was good against Dallas, but I think his offense, that was his best offensive performance. His crosses were dangerous. He was making good passes when he got into the attacking third, which we hadn't seen at all in the first 5 games. And then he didn't make the really bad back pass to the goalkeeper that he'd made once in the previous 5 games. He made it once each in the previous 5 games. So moving up the pitch a little bit, Hassani Dotson played all 180 minutes this week and looked good doing it. They really have decided with him, it seems like, that he's going to get on the pitch no matter what. It doesn't matter what position. They just want him on the field, and that's smart because he's good, he's talented, he's promising. And they've almost molded that. It seems like they've molded that winger spot that he's playing into more like an inverted winger, where he's not going to sit out wide in the attack. He's going to come inside and cause some trouble in there, and that seems to fit him a lot better than what he played when he was playing just a true winger when he was out on the outside. That didn't seem to play to his advantage or his skill set. Now that he's kind of that inverted winger, he plays a lot better, I think.
I think that was all by design, too. I think that they felt that he needed to get comfortable someplace. He's a very talented kid. He's only going to get better. The upside is huge for Hassani Dotson, and I think we saw that just him getting 180 minutes, Cal, at the same position. You could see he was getting more comfortable and more comfortable. And, it's tough. There are some players in this league that can go from defensive back to a wing to a defensive mid. But those are veterans, the guys that can do that and do that flawlessly. Hassani they were asking a lot of him what they were doing, and I think he's probably very comfortable right now.
It says a lot about the individual when the coaching staff change the complete complexion of a certain role just to fit you in the team, doesn't it? They clearly feel very, very confident with Hassani Dotson, and as they should do as well. We all know it's not his best role. We all know he's much more suited as a central midfielder. In my opinion, as an ace, as an out-and-out box-to-box midfielder who can do some really good things on both sides of the ball. I think I've said this to you chaps before. I think Hassani Dotson's the real deal. By no means am I going to compare him to a Tyler Adams or a Weston McKennie, but I think at some stage, I do think he's going to be a part of the next group that end up making that move over to European football, whether that is Germany or France or England or what have you. I can seriously see him making that jump at some stage, particularly because his contract is up over the course of the next couple of years as well. So he's got suitors for sure. I know there are people looking. So it wouldn't surprise me over the course of the next year or so if we do see some serious interest in him. But let's enjoy him whilst we have him now. And I think, look, the main reason why Adrian has stuck Hassani Dotson on that left-hand side is because at the moment they don't really have too many other options. And I know when they started in Seattle on the left-hand side, the original plan, to my knowledge, was to start Nico Hansen out there, who, let's not forget, had a really, really good pre-season, and everybody was impressed with him. So Hassani Hassani Dotson came in and he sort of made the role his own, really, because he's not operating as a winger. He's, as you mentioned, Jonathan, he operates as an inverted winger, really. And what that means is it gives Chase Gasper a lot more time on the ball when he's advancing. And having inverted wingers in this system, when you've got the fullbacks bombing up, it tends to work more than most. So I think that more than anything, I think with Hassani Dotson, it just once again proves that you can stick him just about anywhere and he'll do a job for you. And the good thing about him as well, lads, is that he doesn't complain. He gets on with it. He will go and study the position as well. He was asked, what was it? I was told he was asking Ethan Finlay about the position. He was asking Emanuel Reynoso, what would you do here in certain situations and what have you. He's a footballing sponge, and he just wants to learn all the time. So he's a wonderful addition to the football club. And he's one of those players that wherever you put him, even if you put him at centre half, I'm not suggesting we do, but even if you did, I seriously think he could do a job. I really do.
Yeah. And I liked when they were in that 4-3-3, they went to the 4-2-3-1 for Dallas. When they were in that 4-3-3 with Reynoso and Dotson as the wingers, they weren't really operating as wingers. They were both kind of tucking inside with Robin Lod, so there was a lot of pressure on the opposing team's back lines as those three were just moving around. Each player wasn't really staying put. They were all kind of rotating where they were at, and that really that caused a lot of problems for the opposing defense. I want to ask a question here that might seem weird, but just follow me here. The question is,
from you.
You're used to weird questions, yes. The question is, did Emanuel Reynoso officially make Minnesota United his team? It sounds weird coming off the playoff performance he had last year, but follow me here. Adrian Heath, we've heard a number of times in the press conferences this season say that he wants to see Reynoso lead more, and he does that on the pitch by just playing really extremely well. But he also wanted to see him get involved and kind of will this team to winning, drag this team to victory and drag it to success. On Saturday night, I started to see that finally. I started to see him as the game wore on, as they started to pile on the chances. I started to see him yell towards his team to push further, push harder, push more, and get more upfield and give him more chances. I started to see that for the first time. So the question stands, did Emanuel Reynoso officially make this his team?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I don't know that I can say yes, he did, but I think, Cal, it kind of depends on what's going on in the locker room, something that we don't have, ability to see what's happening in the locker room. Because if you're going to say this is his team, that's not just on the pitch. It's also what's going on the bench. It's what's going on in the locker room. Is he that much of a leader? Because, I mean, what do you think, Cal? I'm not quite sure he's quite demanded quite the presence of a Michael Boxall in the clubhouse. And I think to say this is his team, I think you have to have, it's got to be the full deal. Everything.
Well, first of all, Johnny Harrison, it's probably the most thought-provoking question you've ever asked. And
it only took 4 years.
I mean, no, I mean that in all seriousness. It's a sensational question.
Well, thank you.
And I, at the moment, I would probably just about say yes, because Adrian Heath said earlier on in the season, when things weren't going so well, that he needs more from Reynoso. There's a reason why he's here. Mm-hmm. I think ultimately the plan long term was this to be Reynoso's team. When the pitch first came to him, when he was at Boca Juniors, that was the pitch. This is going to be your team. You're going to be the man, the star. And there's a reason why he's wearing number 10. Number 10 obviously wearing number 10 is a big deal wherever you are in world football, but it's huge in Argentina because of the significance of it, because of Diego Maradona, because of Lionel Messi, and Riquelme as well. There's several number 10s that have operated for Argentina that have been absolutely beyond world class, and that there is a significance with wearing number 10. So I was told by Mark Watson when he went down and made that original pitch to Reynoso, and he said, "You're going to be wearing number 10. You're going to be the main man." He started to cry, because it meant so much to him, because the idea was this was going to be his team. So I think that's the long-term goal, and I wonder now, are we really starting to see first bits of evidence of that because he is settled. He's had time now to understand the culture in the United States and the differences, between players and how to operate both on and off the field. It takes time for foreign players to sometimes get used to Major League Soccer as well. There are a lot of similarities between the Argentine Primera and Major League Soccer, but there are subtle differences as well. So I think I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes in week 5 of Major League Soccer as opposed to week 2 or 3, I don't necessarily think it's much to do with him, to be honest. I think I've certainly spoken to both of you about this off air for sure, but the issue in the opening couple of weeks was that Reynoso was picking the ball up far too deep. Sometimes it was because of his own ideas and what he wanted to do, and he always wants the ball at feet, doesn't he? You can always see he's pleading for the pass a lot, which is great. If you want someone on the ball, you want him on the ball for sure if you're a Minnesota United fan or associated with the club. But a lot of it, I think, was not necessarily what we wanted to see in the opening 4 weeks because the high press wasn't as effective as Minnesota wanted it to be. And obviously when they press high, Reynoso, and they press as a unit, Reynoso joins with that unit, not necessarily being a major proposition or a major part of the initial press, but he's certainly involved. And the ball would, more often than not, when Minnesota executed it well, it would find the feet of Reynoso at the very deepest, midway through the opposing half. That's where you want him on the ball. And of course, you'd like him closer to goal as well, but that's ideally where you want him on the ball because he can create stuff. Emanuel Reynoso does not necessarily play his best football when he is deeper, in my opinion. And the issue is I haven't got the stats in front of me, guys, but I saw a couple of numbers over the course of the last few days, and I know Reynoso, unsurprisingly, is the player who loses the ball the most for Minnesota United, which you're okay with because he's the one who's going to be creating things and trying things, right? You're okay with that happening when he's higher up the field, but the issue has been when he loses it midway through the Minnesota United half and much deeper than where you would want him. The fullbacks have already bombed forward. They've already tried to push forward to get involved in the attack because they're expecting, if not a direct pass from Reynoso, perhaps a secondary pass from somebody. If Reynoso loses the ball there midway through the Minnesota half, instantly the 4 players behind him are under severe pressure, and it's really killed Minnesota. If you go back to the game against Austin, that's exactly what happened, and the ball came into the right-hand side because Gasper was so far up the field. If you go back to the second goal against Real Salt Lake that they conceded, exact same thing. And then I believe it was
Cal. If we wanted that, we would have just kept Ibsen.
Well, exactly. But there was another one as well. I think it was when Paulo Metenier was far up the field. It may have even been the Sounders game. I can't remember. But it happened because Reynoso was giving the ball away a lot deeper than you would have wanted him to. Not necessarily his fault. But now, because I thought they executed the high press quite well against FC Dallas, and they did it okay against Vancouver as well, but certainly they did it very well against Dallas. I think now there's perhaps the opportunity, Jonathan, to suggest that maybe now we can start to perhaps think that the opportunity is there to say that this could be Reynoso's team. I'm going to say yes, just about, but I think we'll really see that over the course of the next few months.
Yeah. I think that was, absolutely, as you mentioned, that was the plan going in, and it's good to see that coming to fruition. And another guy who's played remarkably well this season, who's not getting, I think, the credit he deserves, is Robin Lod. He continues to be, outside of Emanuel Reynoso, this team's best player. And personally, I love seeing it after the rough start he had to his tenure with the Loons. Came on strong last year, and then has only continued that had the assist in against Vancouver, and then scored the winner against Dallas. I think he's been playing remarkably well, and he's, besides Emanuel Reynoso, he's probably first on the team sheet every week.
Yeah, and here's a guy that's done everything that's been asked of him, playing out of position, and all he has done is continue to get better and better every time he gets on the pitch. And I don't know if we've seen, I don't know if we've seen the limit to what Robin Lod can do, but I got to tell you, Cal, it's get the point now where he's one of those players where when he gets the ball on his feet anywhere inside the 18, you get kind of excited.
Excellent point, Dan. The fact that we've yet to really see Robin Lod at 100%, because over the last couple of months for the team, he's been playing in the false nine, which he does amicably and admirably, I would argue. He does it quite well, but it's not his natural position. His natural position is a wide area. I think we've all seen preferably with him on the right-hand side, tucking in on that favoured left foot of his. And he can play in the 10 as well. He's done it for the Finland national team. I am interested to see where Finland play him during the European Championships as well. I have a feeling it could be at the 10, which could again propose something else for Minnesota United moving forward. But he's been wonderful, involved in 4 of Minnesota United's 5 goals. And is I would argue, I would agree with you in the sense that he's one of the first names on the team sheet because he gives you so much. And I thought the cross for Ramon Abila's goal was stupendous. I thought he picked him out superbly. And then the Dallas goal, he showed wonderful instinct in front of goal to be in the right place at the right time. So I know he's worked on it a lot. He's worked on the false nine position a lot because I think as soon as it became obvious that there were issues at centre forward for Minnesota this year in terms of Ramon Abila not coming in, being fully fit, Juan Agudelo has had 1 or 2 little niggles. Foster Langsdorff has had a bit of a sticky patch in terms of confidence as well in training. I think when it became obvious that again he would be utilised as a false nine, he stayed behind and he was practicing with people. I know Ian Fuller, the assistant manager of Minnesota, has worked with him tirelessly. Adrian Heath has certainly played his part as well. So, it presents such an opportunity for Minnesota United to have Robin Lod, who is so versatile, who can play in so many different positions. And much like Hassani Dotson, as we said earlier on, I get the feeling he's one of these players that wherever you put him, he's going to do a job. I've even seen him play in the centre of midfield for Finland before as well. So, I mean, he can do a job in a lot of different areas. But so far, so good in terms of the false nine. I think moving forwards, I think we are more than likely going to see him situated on that right-hand side of that 3 behind the forward.
Dan, how much was that goal for Robin Lod against FC Dallas? How much was that just one of those scrappy hockey goals that we see all the time in the NHL?
Well, it's like Cal said, people can look at that and go, he just got lucky. But you know what? Good players put themselves in the position to make things happen. And whatever instincts that, Robin Lod had, he put himself in the right spot. He could have been 2 feet to the right, 2 feet back, 2 feet left. He doesn't convert that. He was in the right spot. And, that's a veteran player. There's a guy that knows his way around, and those are the guys you lean on. And was it pretty? No. I think it bounced off the goaltender before it went in even. So, no, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a big bend. It wasn't a big bending shot from 20 yards out, but it didn't matter to the 4,000 people at Allianz and to everybody involved. So, yeah, you got to have guys like that. You got to have guys that know how to get into the ugly spaces and know how to find themselves, put themselves in positions to score goals. And he showed he can do that. So.
Yeah, a guy who knows how to find a nice space in the opponent's boxes, Ramon Abila. We saw exactly what he's going to bring to this team with that goal, with that nice header. But he also had another couple nice plays in that Vancouver game where he would make a darting run and then just stop and come back into the open space that was just vacated by the Vancouver defenders. Cal, that's kind of what you said when he was signed, that Ramon Abila, that's what his game is going to be. It's not going to be exactly what Adrian Heath wants full-time out of that position, but that's what he's going to bring you, and if he can do that a number of times this season, you're getting your money's worth out of him.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, let's not walk on the eggshells, shall we, Johnny? I mean, I've been very critical of the signing of Ramon Abila. I didn't think it was the right deal at all. And simply because of the way that Adrian Heath likes to conduct his operation and the way that he wants his team to play. But what we've seen, and as you mentioned, what I did say, is where he is very good is in those tight spaces and inside the penalty area. You don't just score 39 goals in 51 starts for Boca Juniors and be a nobody. You know, the
Right.
goal scoring ratio is very, very good in one of the, if not the biggest team in South America. And I hope there's no River Plate fans listening after me saying that. I understand why he was brought in. I really do. And I think now it's interesting to see because of the goal against Vancouver. I think there are certainly more teams in Major League Soccer now that will be fully aware of him. And I'm not saying that they weren't aware of him before. As I said, he was obviously scoring a lot of goals in Argentina. He would have had people who looked at him before, but it's very different having somebody be aware of you in a different scenario. And now people can understand that he's actually transitioned quite well into Major League Soccer in terms of what he's offered so far. And I certainly thought, when he came on, I thought FC Dallas looked incredibly fearful of him, actually, because they were aware of what he'd done, and they were, no doubt they would have watched tape on him as well. And like I said, not for 1 second am I suggesting Luchi Gonzalez didn't know who he was or hadn't looked at tape at him before, but seeing him in this setting, it's a very different environment to that would have seen him in previously at Boca Juniors. And I thought Dallas looked incredibly nervous when he came on. And there were one or two touches that he had, like you said, and you could tell that the one or two defenders bit when he checked inside and then brought it back in. And so I think what Minnesota have done right now is I think they have found the perfect role for Ramon Avila. I'm not sure he will be happy with the role, but I think his role for a while now will be when Minnesota United are in need of a goal and there is, 30, 25 minutes left, bring him on, and he will cause a problem because he will be so different to anything else. He'll be very different to what Unu will offer. He'll be very different to what Robin Lord and Juan Agudelo and Foster Langsdorff had to offer as well. So I think that's going to be his role moving forward. But also what I really liked is how smart he was in tight spaces. And again, this is what we've said in the past. The goal against Vancouver, I thought, was vintage Ramon Avila. And when the ball came in from Robin Lord, if you go back and watch it, you can see him just take a little half step to get away from, I think it was Cornelius who was ahead of him, and step in between the two centre halves. There's not many that can be as instinctive as that in front of goal, and to be as calm as that in front of goal. So I think Ramon Avila ultimately will end up being a very good signing for this team. And like I said, if he comes on and does that for another 7 or 8 times this season, what he did against Vancouver, great. No problem whatsoever. I do wonder, though, and not to be negative about it, but I do wonder if it warrants the $1 million that the team are paying for him in terms of salary, and if it warrants getting him in on a permanent basis at the end of the season. That's where I would perhaps pump the brakes a little bit. But from a positive point of view, Minnesota have him for the rest of the season. And they know damn well that when they need a goal, they can put him on the field, and there will be a lot of issues for the opposing back line.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so we've spent 40 minutes being pretty dang positive about these 2 wins, so I want to reel it back just a little bit. Not going to go super negative here, but I know we're being pretty positive about these 2 wins because they were huge wins. They were much needed. But with the way that Vancouver and Dallas played, Vancouver sitting back a lot, not having a whole lot of the ball, Dallas having a lot of the ball, but basically being in their own third because Minnesota kept pressing the ball away from them. Should we be a little bit more concerned that those 2 teams were allowed to hang around for as long as they were?
You are negative. Why do you have to be that way? We're trying to celebrate a couple of big wins, and right away you got to drag it.
Right away, 40 minutes in.
Yeah, and I'm going to think specifically about the Dallas match, and it's not that we let them hang around. What was it, 27 shots? Is that what the number was? Which is just
27
ridiculous.
to, I think, 7.
And if you look at those shots, yeah, they shot some over the top, some went wide, but a huge number of those shots were blocked by the defense in tight. There were a lot of balls that didn't get through. And do I know that they would have been on goal on the mark? I don't know. But they were in areas where you'd expect a player to put it on goal. So, I mean, Dallas did some things right to stay in that match. It's not as though they just didn't show up. I mean, they dominated possession time for the first half, and they did a lot of things correct and kept it close. If they attempt 27 shots on a regular basis, There's going to be nights they're going to win 3-0, 4-0, and they're going to have those nights. But, this is football. This is what happens. You don't always get the goals, and that's why goals are at such a premium. And I think that, I don't know. And Cal, I don't know. I guess curious what you think. I just don't think it really matters whether you get especially when you're 0-4. I don't think you care whether you win 1-0 or 3-0. It doesn't matter. You just got to win.
Just win. But like I said earlier on, I do think the way that Minnesota won will certainly help them psychologically in both games. That is. I don't know, Johnny. I think there's obviously an issue against counter-pressing teams, against transition teams that particularly move through the middle of the park. The one area where I thought Dallas got it very, very wrong was I thought they played Andreas Ricarte far too high up the field. Any time that I saw any sort of danger from them was when Ricarte, the number 10, was dropping a little deeper and was actually able to ping these lovely diagonal balls, because remember, they played a 3-5-2 and they did play with the wing back essentially, and that was where I think a lot of the service was supposed to come from. But they very rarely got the ball out to those wing backs at all, and I think a lot of that is because they didn't get the ball to them, and I think a lot of it is again because they didn't get the ball into the feet of Ricarte deep enough, in my opinion. In fact, they had him in this 10 role, which he can do, no doubt, but I don't think he had the forwards ahead of him to really warrant him in that role. I thought he would have been best served a little deeper. I lost count. I don't know about you chaps. I lost count the amount of times Frank O'Hara was offside. It wasn't going to work.
No.
It was obvious it wasn't going to work.
I thought they probably had to take him in at halftime and draw it up for him so he could see what he was doing wrong. I don't know. It was strange.
Yeah, you'd be furious if you were Luchi Gonzalez, wouldn't you? You would be absolutely. Yes. It's one of them, isn't it, where you put him in the corner and go, "Look, stop being offside."
They needed the offside line from British. They needed the offside line from the Premier League VAR, just following him around the entire time. Don't go past this line.
No, but look, I think against the counter-pressing teams that there are issues for sure. And I think Adrian managed it quite well with both fullbacks this game against Dallas. And I thought he did a good job against Vancouver as well, having the two players in Alonso and Trapp being the two sitting players, because that's their role. That's what they're going to do, and it gives you a little bit more protection if the fullbacks do go. But as I said earlier on, it has harmed them in the past. But also, Jonathan, what I thought was really good is Minnesota themselves played a high line from time to time as well. And there's a reason why O'Brien was offside as many times as he was as well, because he was the one who you were expecting to play off the shoulder and get in behind with a single solitary touch. And he would have been away from Michael Boxall and Brent Coleman, who, let's be honest, they've got many qualities, but pace, I don't think is one of them.
No.
Having said that, Michael Boxall was a lot faster than people give him credit for. But going up against somebody like Hader O'Brien, it's difficult. And so I thought they were organised defensively, and I thought the high line that they did press onto gave Dallas a lot of problems, and certainly Frank O'Hara as well couldn't quite figure it out, could he? So I think it's okay, Jonathan. I think once they operate in that sort of environment and setting again, whether that comes against a team like a Sporting Kansas City, who can also transition quite well, it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I think it'll be against opponent basis, I think, in terms of how the backline operate moving forward. But ultimately, I think they're okay.
Yeah. All right. So we spent 45-ish minutes talking about some pretty positive things about Minnesota United for the first time all season. It's been fun doing that. Let's take a quick look around the league here as we check out some of the scores.
Time out.
Yeah.
We have to talk about one thing first.
Uh-oh.
I had to go back and look up the handball rule for the third time this year.
Oh.
Okay? So somebody help me. Cal, I'm looking at you. I read the rule. I watch the replay, and I don't understand how this can go to the VAR ref. He watched it probably multiple times. I don't understand how that was not a handball. I'm baffled by this.
I think baffled is probably the most polite word possible there, isn't it, Dan? It was about as bizarre a call as they come, in my opinion, because as soon as we saw the replay, we thought handball straight away, because I understand his hand is low. Matt Hedges' hand is low. I get that, but it's outstretched. It's not in my opinion, what you would consider a natural position. And I know there's plenty of counter arguments towards that. When you kick a soccer ball, your arms are out and whatnot. But when you don't have the ball, I understand the balance argument. But I don't think it's a natural position. And the biggest thing for me here, guys, is when it was clipped through. I think was it Will Trapp who played the ball through.
Yes, it was.
When it's clipped through, had it not have struck the hand of Matt Hedges, it falls straight into the path of Ramon Avila. Now, to my understanding, if the flight path is impeded by a hand, that's handball. And I was absolutely certain when they went to the monitor, they were going to give it. And my jaw hit the ground when they said no penalty. I couldn't believe it.
No. We all had that same reaction. It was just, I was sure we were going to the penalty spot. And it was, and I guess this is something that the MLS has to work on, because the reason why you have VAR is to get it right. And if you've got people, and I don't consider myself, but people like you, Cal, that have been calling soccer virtually since you were a wee lad, and you've all over the world, and you've played. I mean, this should not be this difficult, and the MLS has to get that figured out, because you got experienced soccer people that are struggling to understand it. That's a problem.
Yeah, I think people are overthinking it now, if I'm being totally honest. We go on these league meetings about VAR. We go on these pro referee assignment calls, and we have these tapes that they show us. And a lot of the times, I keep quiet and professional, but a lot of the times I just want to be guys. We are overthinking this so much. It's I know. It's not exactly black and white handball anymore, but if it gets any grayer, I think I'm going to have some serious issues.
Handball is to soccer what a catch is to the NFL, apparently.
I don't know. Never thought it should be confusing, but whatever. All right, I don't know that I feel any better, but thanks for trying.
All right, so let's take a quick look at some of the stories coming out of the league this week. Seattle just keeps rolling a 2-0 effort for them against LAFC. LAFC sit surprisingly bottom of the Western Conference. Question here for the room: is Bob Bradley in trouble? I know it's early in the season, but there's a lot of expectations. They haven't won a trophy yet. They were pretty close to winning the CONCACAF Champions League back in December, but they still haven't won anything yet. Is he in trouble?
Well, I would say on the surface, no, but maybe, Cal, you have a little bit better feel of what the talks are around the league on that situation. But it seems too early to be talking that way, but maybe you've heard different.
No, I agree with you completely, Mr. Terhard. I think it's too early. And people in all walks of sport, but particularly this one, I think people have a shorter memory than any other in terms of sports, because look at what Bob Bradley's done with LAFC. Let's not forget, they came in the year after Minnesota United as well. They've made the playoffs every single year. They reached the CONCACAF Champions League semi-finals. Now, they are a legitimate team. Now, I understand what people are saying in terms of they look very different without Diego Rossi and Carlos Vela. I understand that. But I think Juventus look a little different without Cristiano Ronaldo. I think Barcelona look a little different without Lionel Messi. So it's going to happen, right? It's just going to happen. But I think it's far too early to even think of suggesting that. I really believe that LAFC will pick it up. I really think that. And not much has changed with their roster. Not much has changed at all. They've had one or two tweaks defensively. And the only area where I think they could perhaps do with a little improvement is the goalkeeping situation, because I'm not convinced Cisniega is the number one moving forward for them. and I'm saying this with knowledge, knowing they are asking around as well. So we'll see what happens with them. But I think they're fine. I really do, and I think ultimately they'll make the playoffs again. I think they're too good, Jonathan.
I think I heard one of their fans in the background there just a moment ago.
Is that coming through?
I hope that was coming from your house. There's not supposed to be any babies in my house.
I was really hoping that wouldn't come through. I didn't know if that would. I can't shut the door because then my cat would like be pounding at the door to get in, and you hear that. So
got a lot of issues.
A guy who's not fearful for his job in LA is Greg Vanney, who's gotten off to a hot start with the Galaxy. It's also really helped out by Chicharito scoring buckets of goals for them. He is back in form for them. Your guys' thoughts on the LA Galaxy's start to the season? I love Chicharito, former Manchester United player. I just love his redemption story this season.
You seem to be in love with whoever plays that position for the LA Galaxy. What is it with
come
you
on.
and the Galaxy
When it's a former
Strikers?
Manchester United player, I'm going to get excited.
Man, yeah, I don't know.
I can go get the Zlatan jersey if you want.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's close by. You know what? When you have a truly dynamic striker, hey, life's good. It's like having the best quarterback in the NFL, or it's huge, and you can see why Minnesota fans are a little frustrated because they want that dominant number 9 that scores goals all the time, and they've never had it. And so yeah, that's what a great number 9 does. But the problem is there aren't enough of those to go around. There's only a few, and if every team had one, that'd be really cool. But you got to find one, and you got to find one. You got to get them here, and you got to keep them here. So good for them. They found a guy, but they're hard to find. They're very hard to find.
Yeah, they are a dime a dozen, and they often come at a hefty price tag as well.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
I think, do you know what? Isn't it ironic? I think the closest Minnesota United have come to having what we would consider a natural goal scorer was in 2017 when Christian Romero's got 14 goals in an expansion team, by the way. That's a very, very good return for a first-year team. And obviously he left for various different reasons, which we don't need to go into. But I would agree that it's obviously a frustrating part for Minnesota United. Hopefully, Adrian Unu can come in and solve that issue, and maybe Ramon Abila can be a part of that story as well. But I think Greg Vanney has done such a wonderful job with them, Jonathan. I'm not surprised at all, to be honest, because he did a wonderful job at Toronto FC. My only concern for Greg Vanney when he first got the job was, are they going to give him enough time? Because that's exactly what Toronto did, and look how that worked out. So,
absolutely.
I think they are wonderful. They're easy on the eye, and quite rightly so. All the headlines are going to Javier Hernandez right now, but let's not dismiss the efforts of Victor Vasquez either, who of course Greg Vanney had at Toronto FC before he ended up going elsewhere on an Asian escapade and a South American escapade before coming back to Major League Soccer. And I think Victor Vasquez has provided so many of the passes for Hernandez. And Javier Hernandez is just one of these players who he just needs half a yard and he can finish. But it's all good having one of those players. If you haven't got a player that can get the ball into his feet, then you've got an issue. LAFC don't have that issue. And I think I'm not going to say they're going to be back to the LA Galaxy that we know, but just getting back into the playoffs for them will be viewed as progression, and I'm intrigued to see how the rest of the campaign goes for them.
All right, you guys want to get to write that down?
Yes, can't wait.
You got you each got your predictions here?
I got them.
All right, let's bring in the rules here. 3 soccer-related predictions here on Write That Down. At least one of them has to be Minnesota United related. We will keep track of correct predictions. We'll call them goals throughout the year, and the most goals at the end of the year rightly gets the Golden Boot. Still no trophy yet, but we'll figure that out. So a quick accountability session before we get things started. The listeners, they had 2 come off the board. Nick D., a friend of AJ's, one of our producers over at SKOR North, sent him a couple. He said Adrian Heath would be fired or resign if they lose on Wednesday. Well, they didn't lose on Wednesday, and Adrian Heath is still in the job, so that one's done. He also said Dane St. Clair will lose his starting job by Saturday if the Loons lose on Wednesday. Well, Dane St. Clair wasn't the starting goalkeeper on Wednesday, so that one already was lost for Nick D.
Nick needs some sunshine in his life, or needs to do yoga or something. He's very negative young man.
Yeah, wasn't good for the listeners. Still hasn't been good for me. I said Emanuel Reynoso would be involved in at least 3 goals in the next 2 games, either a goal or an MLS registered assist. He did not do that, unfortunately.
Johnny.
Dan, you're flying high here, though.
I'm going for the slam dunks.
You said Minnesota will get a goal from a true number 9 in the month of May. I think Ramon Abula is considered a true number 9.
Absolutely is, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You get that one, and then you.
And by the way, that was no gimme. I mean, there was a chance that true number 9 wasn't going to play in the month of May. So
that's true.
That was not a gimme.
And then you also said Minnesota will get a win this weekend, which, looking back on it, was very specific because you said this weekend, but you, listening back to the audio, you mentioned that they would have gotten a win in either of the games, but then you said this weekend, so you referred to Dallas.
Yes.
So you got lucky there, a little bit.
Nah.
But you did say last week that road teams will win at least 3 of the games on Wednesday. They won 2. So
I thought I had that one too. That was close.
You were close. All right, so then our records for this season, I'm still on 0 goals. Dan, you have 3, and you have 3 correct out of 6 that have come true or have happened so far. So you're 50% right now this season. Cal, you're our first guest, and listeners, I forgot to update yours. You were on 0 goals as well. So Cal, I will let you start here for Write That Down.
So I think Minnesota United, after, and this will take some time to assess and address, after the European Championships and the Copa America and Gold Cup, what have you, I'm going to predict Minnesota United will be in the top 6 in the Western Conference.
At what point? After what? After the
Euros, let's go with.
Oh, okay.
After the European Championships.
Okay. All right.
Which is a bold
like
statement, by the way, because let's not forget, Minnesota are going to be without several of their European players.
Right.
They'll be without Robin Lod, one of their best players, so yeah. All right, Dan?
I like it. Write that down. All right, so we all know Minnesota started 0-4. Well documented, well discussed. Now they've won 2 in a row. I am telling you that they will win 2 more in a row, and they'll even themselves at 4-4. So write that down.
I like it. Confidence. All right. I will start off with my Loons prediction just because I need a goal here at some point. I'm going to go with the simple one. The Loons will win at RSL. I'm going to take a page from Dan's book here. I'm just going to go simple. They will win. Not this weekend, obviously, because they don't play, but next weekend when they play at RSL, they will get a win out at Salt Lake. Write that down.
Sometimes you got to just go for the easy one.
I just need I need a bunt in baseball parlance. All right, Cal, you're up with write that down. Prediction number 2 for you.
The next game against Real Salt Lake, there will be a goal scored by a debutant.
Ooh.
Write that down.
Wow, nice.
For Minnesota or just a debutant on either side?
To make it interesting, let's say just Minnesota.
Okay,
right.
I like it. Getting specific.
Make it harder for myself.
I like it. All right, Dan?
All right, L.A. versus Portland on Saturday. And I'm just getting in your face on this one, Jonathan.
Chicharito scores a hat trick?
Chicharito will not score a goal.
Oh, come on.
Or get an assist on Saturday.
You're just wrong.
Wow.
Your boyfriend will get shut out.
You're just wrong. Chicharito hat trick.
Nope, nothing. 0.
You know what? I'm doing it. I know I shouldn't. Write this down. Chicharito will score a hat trick against Portland at the weekend.
Oh, my word.
Now you're just letting your emotions. Now you're just doing dumb emotional things.
Yep.
Jeez.
Chicharito hat trick.
Right.
Portland. Write that down.
All right.
Cal, your third and final one.
Man.
Okay. And so forgive my naivety here, Jonathan. I was slightly confused with the rules when you texted earlier on. So this is now what I do, one that is not Minnesota United based, correct?
It can be any. If you want to do 3 Minnesota-based ones, you can. Otherwise, just soccer-related.
Okay. So this is going off the beaten path a little bit, I think, but we'll go with it. I don't know if you guys have heard about this story. So we all know the two teams, Boca Juniors and River Plate. They played each other on Sunday in Argentina. It's the biggest game in Argentina. River Plate were without the majority of their first team because of many, many positive COVID cases. That has continued, and they play a game on Wednesday in the Copa Libertadores against Independiente de Santa Fe, and at the moment it is being suggested that a defender will have to play in goal for them on Wednesday evening in the Libertadores, which is the premier competition in South America.
Wow.
This is wild. Only does this happen in CONMEBOL, by the way. This is crazy. So
not even CONCACAF is willing to go this far.
No.
Exactly. So at the moment, last I checked, that may very well have changed since we started recording this. They have 9 players available. They can still technically play the game if they have 7 players available. So my prediction is the game goes ahead and they don't start with 11 players.
Wow. That's bizarre.
It is,
I would like to watch that. Yeah, that would be crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. All right, we'll write that down.
By the way, it's their own fault as well. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right, Dan, you're up.
I'm going to go further off the beaten path. In the Minnesota Amateur Soccer League, Division I, on Sunday, FC Minnesota will defeat Lions FC at Hazelwood Park.
Okay.
Write that down.
Where did this come from?
I'm a big fan of the MASL.
Okay.
And
I like
Hazelwood Park. Yeah.
All right. Going back to my Manchester United fandom, Juan Mata, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the head coach of Manchester United, the manager there, said that it's up to him to decide his future. He has not been a regular starter in quite a while for the club. I'm a huge fan of Juan Mata. He's a little bit on the older side, but I say that after his Manchester United career comes to an end, Juan Mata will play in the MLS.
Yeah,
I don't know when. I hope for this summer, because I would love to see him come over here this summer. But I say that after his Manchester United career comes to an end, he will play in the MLS.
It's an interesting proposition, Jonathan, because I know for a fact he was offered a contract over here 2 years ago, and he opted to stay with Manchester United, as you do.
Mm-hmm.
He was also offered major money in China as well. So I think it's going to be up to him, isn't it, really, in terms of where he wants to finish his career, where he wants the next step of it to be. I think we would all certainly hope it would be Major League Soccer because it would improve the league. But I don't know. There's just some really intriguing propositions across world football now, and a lot of these leagues that haven't necessarily been relevant across the world in the past really want to start becoming more relevant. And the best way to do that is signing global superstars. Obviously, Juan Mata is a global superstar, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
He's been one of my favorite players for a long time, and when he came to Manchester United, when Chelsea decided to sell him for some dumb reason, I was super excited to finally see him on a team I cheer for. So since there's no game for Minnesota this weekend, we're going to introduce a new segment because obviously we won't be watching Minnesota United this weekend. I'm calling it What We're Watching. We can change the name later if we want to, if we don't like the very generic title. Basically,
let's leave it. You put a lot of thought into that, I can tell.
I worked hard on that title in the graphic here. All right, so basically the premise is we're each going to choose a game, or 2 games, one MLS game and then one non-MLS match that we will be watching this upcoming week instead of watching our beloved Minnesota United. So since you're the guest, Cal, I'll let you go first here again. So let's start off with the MLS games we're watching this weekend.
Okay, so the MLS game I'm going to be watching this weekend because I think it's going to be very, very tasty. I think it's going to be Orlando City against Toronto FC. And the reason for that is, well, there's a myriad of reasons as to why, but I think it's going to be a very, very good game back and forth. I'm a big fan of the Brazilian, the Venezuelan, I beg your pardon, Jefferson Soteldo at Toronto FC. I think he may have his first real introduction into the league in terms of I think he's going to do well and perhaps score a goal, maybe even grab an assist. Toronto, although this is an away game for them, they're based in Orlando, so it's not
Right.
really. There are home comforts there for them. And I'm also watching the storyline here, chaps. Wouldn't it be amazing, regardless of what you think of the individual, from a journalistic and editorial point of view, from pure selfish point of view, from our point of view here, wouldn't it be amazing if Dom Dwyer scores at Orlando for Toronto?
Yes. That would be amazing.
Why I'm watching that.
Yes.
That's why I'm watching that game.
That's
Yes,
a solid
would.
pick.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, it was a no-brainer for me. I'm going to watch Dallas and Real Salt Lake because I like constant flopping, and I think there's a really good chance that we get 90 minutes of that. And and it's our last opponent and our next two opponents. So for my selfish purposes of preparing for upcoming matches, watching that will just be will be a bonus. And I'm sure you do the same thing, Cal, when you can watch a team that we're going to play soon. It's always a bonus. So that's the one I'm tuning into.
For me, it is LAFC versus Colorado. Colorado are remarkably hot right now. 3 wins in a row going into this one. They're climbing up the Western Conference. And as we mentioned earlier, LAFC are on the bottom of the Western Conference and hasn't been the start to the season that they would have wanted. So I want to see how they turn things around against a really good, it seems, Colorado team that is just on fire at the moment.
Some good ones this weekend, yeah.
Both need to win for different reasons, yeah.
Yeah, so then our non-MLS games. Cal?
Well, I sort of mentioned it earlier on, didn't I? That potential of complete and utter carnage in the CONMEBOL Libertadores, where River Plate may not even be able to field 11 players. I'll certainly be watching that. But to mix it up a little bit, I'll stick with the Libertadores here, Jonathan, and go with I'm really looking forward to watching Palmeiras, the current Libertadores champions, against Defensa Justicia from Argentina, who are the current CONMEBOL Sudamericana champions. Teams I've watched and covered over the course of the last couple of months. And the group stage in the Libertadores at the moment is starting to get to sort of business time. Now, you need to, if you are going to advance, you need to start picking up some wins. And those two played in a game called the CONMEBOL Recopa, which is essentially the Super Cup of South America. And I was fortunate enough to commentate on both legs and thought it was feisty. There was an almighty scrap towards the end of it as well. So this is the first time these two teams are meeting after that. And I think it's going to be really, really entertaining. So there we go. Palmeiras against Defensa Justicia.
Well, that
Dan?
should be fun, yeah. I forgot to look one up, so I guess I'm going to Hazelwood Park and watching FC Minnesota take on the Lions FC on Sunday. Kind of painted myself in a corner, so that's where I'm going.
I like it. Mine is going with, based off one of my Write That Down predictions from, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. I said Juventus would not qualify for the Champions League this year. Looking at the current standings of Serie A, I took them away. But currently in Serie A, Juventus currently sit 5th. The top 4 teams in Italy qualify for the Champions League. Juventus are only out of the Champions League by 1 point. They play Bologna this weekend, while Napoli faces, I can't remember who they face, but Milan faces Atalanta. Milan and Atalanta are 2 and 3 in Serie A. Napoli are sitting right above Juventus in the standings at 4, with Juventus sitting at 5. Napoli play Hellas Verona, so there's a ton to play for this coming weekend, the final weekend of action in Italy. And because my Write That Down says Juventus will not qualify, I either want to see them draw or lose, and the other teams just make it so that Juventus can't qualify for the Champions League. So I'm pulling for Bologna here.
There you go.
There will be so many people that have spent a lot of money that will be furious if Juventus and Cristiano Ronaldo are not in the Champions League.
Oh yeah, if Juventus don't qualify, for the Champions League, you can be pretty sure Cristiano Ronaldo is leaving Italy. He's going back to Portugal. He'll play for Sporting, the champions of Portugal, next season, like his mom wants him to.
Well, I mean, you've got to do what
listen to
your
mom.
Let's be honest
always.
here. But I wonder, would he fancy perhaps one last crack at Manchester United? I wonder.
Don't do this to me. Oh, please make it happen.
Is that on offer? Because I
the problem is, what do you do with the number 7 shirt? Because Cavani's already got it, and he's playing magnificently.
it. Sorry, Cavani. You know, it is,
Sorry. Yeah,
sorry. You
too
know,
bad.
it is what it is. But I wouldn't that be absolutely incredible? And I just think, you know, wouldn't he fancy one last opportunity to sort of rebuild Manchester United, you know, and have a season or two there? Because I agree with you. I think eventually he's going to go back and play at Sporting Lisbon. Maybe this is before or maybe even after his inevitable spell, whether it's in Major League Soccer or the Chinese Super League or somewhere along those lines, you know.
Yeah.
I hope he comes to Major League Soccer at some stage, but I'll be honest, I'll be very surprised. I think the league have their eyes set on Lionel Messi if they're going to go for one of the two. And I would expect that to happen over the course of the next 3 years or so. We all know the rumours, don't we? We all know it's New York City FC because of the Manchester City connection, which everyone is saying that's where he's going to go. But it's all hearsay right now. But in terms of Ronaldo not getting into the Champions League, that would be wild. And also, just a little bit further down the table, Roma aren't absolutely guaranteed Europa League football either. That would be crazy, given the fact that Jose Mourinho is going to be the manager there next season. He will not be happy going to a team that won't be in European football.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they could qualify for the Europa Conference League or whatever the heck the new one is.
League, yeah. Yeah. I was looking at the standings of the Premier League today, by the way, and everyone's talking about West Ham, like how it would have been amazing for them to get in the Champions League. Right now, as it stands, they qualify for the Europa Conference League, whatever it's called.
They're going to get the consolation of the consolation prize. Congratulations. Wow. Not sure that's what you want. All right, we've gone on for, I'm looking at the timer here, an hour and 11 minutes, so it has been fun talking to you guys. Finally.
One question.
Yes.
One question. What's in the wine glass? Little Cabernet, little Pinot Noir?
Oh, a little Sauvignon Blanc, mate.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of the New Zealand wine. I will never ever say I am a wine connoisseur. In fact, I'm far from it. As long as it's wet, I'll drink it, no problem. So there you go.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the beautiful day outdoors. So
yeah. Thank you for joining us, sir. Cal, it's been fun having you on with us.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Good, Dan, good talking to you. We will talk to you next week, Dan.
Yep. See ya. Have a good night.
This has been Loon Talk. You can find it anywhere you find your podcasts, as well as on SKOR North's YouTube channel. Thank you for listening, and have a good one.